Dynamic content refers to content that can vary based on the recipient. One content document is created with many possible versions available. In the Hub, we can accomplish this using logic blocks. Within your content editor, expand the content objects and then drill down into the logic blocks. Here you can drag a logic block onto your canvas wherever you would like to have variable content. In this case, we have a hotel mailing, and we're going to add a message that can vary based on the recipient's information. We're going to place our cursor where the special message should appear and drag a logic block onto the content canvas. When we release the mouse and drop the logic block, it will be added to our content. There are a few steps that we need to complete in order to set up our content. First, we need to configure our logic block and define the business rules for which recipients should view which versions. If we double-click on the logic blocks object, this brings up the dynamic content configuration window. On the right side of the screen, we can add however many blocks we need for each condition, and on the left, we can drag different fields that we can use to filter out different recipients. If we add our first block, let's say that we want to add a message specifically for female guests. First, we can drill into our tables and our person audience to see all of the available fields that have been exposed for this audience. Here we have the gender field, and we can drag it and drop it onto the Query Builder canvas. And in this version, we will look for all recipients who have a value of F for gender, indicating that they are female. We can enter a query description and also add a name for our content block. We can add additional blocks for other conditions. Let's say that we want another version for male guests. Here we can drag in the gender field again and search for male. Let's say that we're not positive that all of our recipients will have a value for gender, and we want to have a default block available in case people do not meet any of the requirements. If we click on Add Block, we can create a third block, and let's say that we want this to be a default message. If we check the box for Make Default, that will allow this block to go to any recipients who do not meet the conditions for the other available blocks. If we do not have a default block, any recipients who do not qualify for the available blocks will just see a blank space wherever we place this logic block. Now we can save our dynamic content configuration, and our business rules have been created. Once you've configured your logic block and defined the different groups available, you can start entering the content for different versions. So if we mouse over logic blocks here and click on this arrow, we can expand the actual content screen. Now we want to zoom in a bit so that we can have a larger canvas for creating our content. In the female space, we're going to enter the content that female recipients should see. Let's say we have a special promotion for Ladies' Night where women drink free. And so, of course, here we would enter our content, and this is the content that would be displayed for female guests. If we reduce this and expand the male content version, we can enter the male version here. The default version can be expanded to enter a default message for anyone who does not qualify for the female or male versions. Once you have configured your logic block, you can preview your content to see what the different versions will look like. In this case, we have only added the logic block to the text, so we can preview the text version. And here, if we expand the logic block area under Settings, we can see the available blocks and check off which one we would like to preview. Once we have made our selection, we can click Refresh, and it will update the content on the left side of the screen. Dynamic content can be added to the HTML code as well. Add your logic block, and in this case we will assume that we've already configured the logic blocks with the same rules that we used in the text, and we will click on the drop down and zoom so that we can see a larger section of the screen. And in the female section, we will insert code that will generate the correct content for female recipients. You may need to zoom additionally in the HTML to make it easier to see the code. In the male version, we would change this content and then the default would have the generic message. Previewing the HTML will be important as well to be sure that you are not breaking the HTML code with the code that you've inserted. You want to be sure that if the piece you have added into your logic block is taken out of the code, that it will not break the overall page. In this case, we can preview the default, the male version, and the female version. Testing is important when you use dynamic content. There are a few options available in your campaign, and it's best to consult with your account team to determine the best plan. In some cases, you will want to create special test files that have examples of the different possible versions. In some cases, you may want to test using your live recipients and only looking at versions that they would be receiving. Dynamic content can be as simple as this, where you just have a few lines or a paragraph that changes based on recipient data. It may include images, it may be entire sections of the page, or it could even be the entire page. It all depends on what you're trying to accomplish, and you may want to discuss the options with your account representatives.